Next, I want to call upon Dr. Arthur Lavin, who many of you know as a beloved pediatrician in the Cleveland area. He's also a clinical professor of pediatrics at Case Medical School. He's the co-author of 2 books on parenting. Those of you with young children may want to know this. Who's the Boss? Moving Families from Conflict to Collaboration, and Babies and Toddlers, Sleep Solutions for Dummies. He trained and taught at Harvard and MIT and is a member of national committees of the American Academy of Pediatrics, including publishing much original research. He also serves on national, I definitely had to abbreviate a lot. He serves on the national panel of experts devoted to extensive research dealing with neurotoxins and ADHD. He is the chairperson of the American Academy of Pediatrics Committee on Psychosocial Aspects of Child and Family Health, which is the entity charged with developing policy related to the psychological and social well-being of the children of America. Dr. Lavin.
Thank you. Today is Tish B'Av, the day we remember our catastrophes, the destruction of both temples, events of the Holocaust, and the expulsion from the last country of Europe, Spain, in 1492, an event we should consider today. Traditionally, we chant Echa on Tish B'Av. Jeremiah is recounting the moment in time of a particular catastrophe, the destruction of Solomon's temple. And today, tragically, we all gather together to say we see a catastrophe happening today in the name of the country we love. I'm talking about the cruel abuse of children by our United States of America, about the stripping of babies from their mothers and fathers at the border, the rounding up of people living with us for decades, leaving their children alone to fend for themselves, about people motivated to shoot mothers and fathers as they lay over their babies to save their lives, and then seeing our president celebrate that moment, holding that baby with a cheery thumbs up. Jeremiah said 2,600 years ago, Palge mahim terad einihi al shehever batami. My eyes shed torrents of water over the destruction of the daughters of my people. Echa, chapter 3, verse 48. Thank you to the National Council of Jewish Women for helping each of us gather here today so that we can say this together today, this Tisha B'Av, this moment in the history of our nation, that we say our eyes do shed torrents of water to see our children hurt with a clear intent to hurt the children, as David so powerfully put. I'm a pediatrician, a proud member of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and proud to be part of its large and nationally established leadership team. Pediatricians know a thing or two about children, what helps them, what hurts them. But you don't need a doctor to tell you that shooting a child's parents harms a child, do you? No. And I hope you don't need a doctor to tell you that pulling a child out of the arms of their mother and father to put them in a cage where they learn they may never see their parents again harms a child, do you? No. And certainly, you do not need a doctor to tell you that when your child is in school, that pouncing on their parents at work, to place them in a camp, to concentrate them away, harm the child, do you? No. I'm glad to be reassured. We all know this is harm. I've been asked to tell you a bit more about the nature of harm to a child. And so very briefly, let me tell you, there is sadly a biology to trauma, a biology that our understanding right now is exploding. Keep the name of Dr. Jack Shokoff in mind. He leads a team at Harvard learning how to detect the biology of trauma so we can act as a team that is in close collaboration with the AAP on help prevent, can you hear me? To help prevent, reduce, and ameliorate the impact of trauma. How many of here gathered know the phrase toxic stress? Well, you don't need me to talk about this then. It's an awkward phase, perhaps too technical, because what it really is about is saying that cruelty lasts. The deeper the cruelty, the longer its impact. The heart of the matter is that we all have a set of alarms in our body, alarms in our brains, in our heart, in our gut, across our body. We need these alarms. No alarms means no ability to avoid danger. But a child may have an alarm go off and have no chance to turn off the danger. A man may steal their mother. The child's alarm goes off. Catastrophe has plunged them into a danger that will not go away. So the alarm continues to go off. Alarms that do not go off lead the body to change. The brain alters. The immune system alters. The gut alters. The person is left at tremendous risk for emotional disability, chronic anxiety, depression, for cognitive disability, ADHD, learning disorders, for failed relationships across a lifetime, for failed work success across their life, and even for a short life just because of trauma in childhood. The more trauma in childhood, the more and earlier heart disease and cancer occur later in adulthood. Let me say that again. When a child comes home to find out their parent has been taken away, or survives the mass shooting of their parents, or finds themselves in a cage with guards who are planning to abuse them that night, the danger may pass in a month or some years, but that trauma starts a clock ticking whose bomb may go off only later in life and end that life early. My friends, my eyes shed torrents of water because so many children are having their lives so profoundly damaged today. One more word to share, and that word is on the posters, I believe, somewhere on our signs. That word is camp. We gather today that we demand that we close the camps, right? I want to say I passionately support this demand, the urgency of the demand. I think this is both a bad and good moment for me to do so. Why bad? Let me say with you that this moment is bad for me because it comes so late. I should have gathered years ago to make this demand. But this moment is good because today we have gathered. I mentioned that 527 years ago today, this is a historic fact, not legend. 527 years ago today, the last country in Europe that tolerated Jews decided it was their turn to expel them. It was Spain. Curious, isn't it? Today is the anniversary of a powerful empire run by people who spoke Spanish to decide that a certain group of people posed a danger and needed to be expelled. But today is also a moment in time when a powerful empire has decided now that a people who speak Spanish this time are the ones posing a threat. And just as in 1492, have decided the answer is expulsion. In 1492, the tool the nation used was forced expulsion and conversion. In 2019, the tool that this nation uses is the camp, or to be more precise, the concentration camp. Now, concentration camp sounds like an idea from Germany, right? The truth is that started in a Spanish-speaking land, Cuba, in 1869. We're going to be passing out documentation on this point right now, whoever is passing those out. Thank you. In 1869, exactly 150 years ago this year, the first concentration camp was put into practice. The invention was the idea that a nation could choose to pick on a weak group, identified as a danger, much like Pharaoh did. He identified the Jews in Egypt as a group that threatened to overwhelm that nation, and use that danger as justification to place as many people as possible in places outside the rule of law. They are not arrested, they are detained. Given the danger perceived, these people must be placed apart, so the story goes. That is concentrated. Once set apart, the danger justifies holding them indefinitely and doing whatever the nation wants in that place. This is the concentration I speak of, not the death camps that we tend to think of. The idea did not start in Germany or even recur as mainly a German act. As mentioned, the first concentration camp was at Cuba. Does anyone know which country created the second concentration camp in the history of the world?
England?
Your standing country right now is the United States, and a concentrated perceived enemies in the Philippines. Since then, South Africa, nations across Europe in World War I, the Ottomans with the Armenian population, the English with the Irish, of course the Soviets with their Gulag, of course we are most familiar with the Germans with the Nazi camps, but also the Chinese with their concentration camps, North Korea, Chile under Pinochet, and Argentina under the junta, and again the United States with Japanese Americans, all use this technique of identifying a group as dangerous, locking them away, throwing away the key. My friends, make no mistake, the identification of immigrants of color as danger, the creation of locked camps where they are concentrated, stripped of all legal recourse, detained with no end in sight, fits exactly into this 150-year-old pattern. They are indeed concentration camps, and there are several right here in Ohio. David's probably been to some of them. So we have talked about the children, we have talked about the camps. Let me leave you with a call to do something about it. Here's 6 things we can do. Number 1, get this book. It's called On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. I won't spend time going into his credentials. It's the best book. Washington Post recognized it as the most important book published in 2017, I believe. It's got 20 things you can do, each of us can do, to end this nightmare. 2, bear witness like we're doing today, over and over again. In the history of concentration camps, the only times they ceased, with the exception of a loss of a war, was when the public shined a light on the practice. We need to keep shining the light. Number 3, write your Congress people. Number 4, text, post, write. Number 5, register voters. We know what happens when the wrong person gets in office now, don't we? And number 6, get them to the polls next summer and fall. Today is Tish B'Av. Today, more than any other day, our Jewish community must know we know about being singled out. We know what happens. We do. We know what happens when a group is identified as a threat, taken from their home, and detained outside the law. Because we know, we say, Palge ma'im teradenihi ad shever batamihi. But we know as well as any group of people, shedding tears is not enough. Thank you to the National Council of Jewish Women and to Suburban Temple for allowing us to do more than weep, to gather to learn, to be moved to take action. Right now in America, children are being hurt with the sort of hurt that lasts, and that we all know a bit more of how that hurt does and what it does. Let us go from here, go from today, and shine a light on this outrage and end it.